Everybody back to another episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. It is just me, your host, Adam Cousins, today with a Monday Night Raw and the Draft Night 2 recap. Monday Night Raw was from Texas, and it kicked off as SmackDown did. Triple H come out and announced the first round picks of the draft. Raw selected Rhea Ripley, which wasn't really a big surprise as Bianca went to SmackDown. Much like SmackDown selecting Austin Theory. We know that Gunther and Imperium had gone to Monday Night Raw, so again, makes sense. Raw selected Seth Rollins, which kind of makes sense. Becky Lynch is on the same show, and they tend to partner the couples together. And Seth is one of the favorites to win the New WWE Championship. SmackDown selects Charlotte Flair. I wasn't quite sure about that one. I didn't quite understand why they done that, but they did. And Charlotte stays on brand blue. Triple H also revealed that Brock Lesnar is once again a free agent and can turn up wherever he pleases, much like some other guys that we'll get into later on. Brock being a free agent, I mean, don't really think it matters, to be quite honest with you. Brock will just show up wherever he wants, whenever he wants, and he'll get into a feud with whoever's next. At that point, Paul Heyman come out. Triple H announced that Paul Heyman was coming out, and he came to the ring to talk a little bit about Roman Reigns coming back to SmackDown in a week's time to talk about the World Heavyweight Championship, which he can't actually go for because it's exclusive to Raw. And Roman is on SmackDown, although Paul Heyman did say, wouldn't let the title look relevant around your waist of the Tribal Chief. And he was interrupted by everyone's favorite theme at the moment, Seth Rollins, which was, which is an interesting segment. Seth come out, the crowd started cheering, they're playing his song. And I think Heyman come out with a line because Roman Reigns had called him, and Paul Heyman during it, and he's like, "You're pissing off the Tribal Chief," which was quite funny. And obviously, Roman doesn't have to run from him anymore, so he doesn't have to pull any strings because Seth can go for the world title now and not Roman's. They did tease a stomp being hit on Heyman, but Sikoa made the save, and that set up the main event for this evening, which was Seth and Solo. First match on the card was Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez versus Bayley and Dakota Kai from Damage Control. It was okay, I felt. It was a little bit obvious that, Raquel and Liv weren't going to drop the titles as it was a non-title match. And obviously, Bayley needed a win, really. She's been floundering a little bit ever since her loss to Bianca, and they've been teasing a little bit of a Damage Control split. So this was nice to see her a win for Bayley and Dakota Kai, but I don't really think it does anything. I think that was, just a simple, let's get this out of the way and let's move on to Backlash on Saturday. The draft then continued, which round two, started with the Raw selecting Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, which is interesting. I'm not sure how that works as tag champions. Are the brands going to have separate champions now? Don't know how it works, to be quite honest with you. SmackDown selected the Usos. Again, that continues a storyline with the Bloodline on SmackDown. Not entirely sure. I thought maybe the Usos was going to go to Raw as punishment, really. But with Roman Drew back next week, we may be able to see what goes on between the Usos and Roman and Solo, because again, they were teasing that Solo Sikoa was going to attack the Usos. So an interesting one for SmackDown and the Usos. Raw selected Judgment Day. They had Rhea Ripley. So it makes perfect sense for the Judgment Day to carry on their reign on Raw, which I think has been really good. Dominic's probably got one of the best bits of heel heat so far, or this year even. So it's a really good selection for Raw. SmackDown selected the Latino World Order. Again, keeping Rey and Dominic off of the show, off of the same shows, which is a good thing. And Latino World Order is currently selling a load of shirts for the WWE. So obviously an ideal to keep them together going forward. That was Selena Vega, Rey Mysterio, and obviously that makes up the LWO. Sorry. The next match was Strowman and Ricochet versus the Alpha Academy. Again, I just think this was a throwaway match. Really, was fun. It was a fun little sprint, to be fair. But I just felt this match again was just a little bit of a throwaway, and like, let's just get to Backlash, and then we can shake the rosters up and we can start it all again. And it didn't really do anything for either team, but it was just, put on the show, kind of throwaway, which is, what they're doing at the minute, to be quite honest with you. The next bit was Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. A little bit thing with the security on this. I do think they've, using too many security guards for this segment. The interesting bit was the punch that Cody threw on Brock and connected. If you heard it through your TV, was a very big punch, and it connected to his face. It busted Brock open. There really wasn't anything else, I would say. I just think that it was what it was to build up to their match at Backlash. The good thing about it is, apart from the massive attack by Lesnar after WrestleMania, we hadn't had much in the way of violence between those two. And I sometimes like that, because you don't always need the violence on these ones. You can just put them together and let them basically kick the living crap out of each other. Obviously, Cody coming out from behind as his entrance music was playing to distract Brock. But yeah, a decent segment. Again, it just felt like, let's just go through the motions and get to where we got to get to. But the match itself will be very interesting going forward at Backlash, and to see what happens after Backlash for Cody. Will he get his win? Will Brock win? Will Cody still have this hard times? Will Cody move on to the tournament, which we find out that the finals of the World Championship tournament will be held at Night of Champions over in Saudi Arabia. So the tournament, I would imagine, will start on Raw Monday and then continue on through to Night of Champions. So it'll be interesting to see who he takes on and who else is in the tournament. I can probably guess that Seth will be in there as well. Perhaps that'll be the final. We'll wait and see. Round 3 of the draft. Raw selected the women's tag team champions of Liv and Raquel. Now, again, the interesting part apart from this is, are they going to be only on Raw? Is there going to be a SmackDown women's tag team championships? Nothing's been announced. So although they're selected on Raw, are they still going to be going to defend on SmackDown? We don't know. And I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks. SmackDown selected Asuka. Yeah, I mean, Asuka was floundering. I mean, she had the WrestleMania match with Bianca, which was good. But she hasn't really done a lot, to be honest with you. And I'll be interested to see what happens going forward with Asuka. She's on SmackDown brand again with Bianca. They've just had their little mini feud. So what happens to Asuka at the end of this will be very interesting. And we'll see how that plans out. Raw selects a New Day. I think every draft that's ever been done, they've been selected. The New Day being Kofi and Xavier. Big E wasn't mentioned as part of this. Obviously, we don't know if he's coming back. We hope that he does, but that's to be confirmed. They've gone to Raw again. They seem to move every draft. So, what will the New Day do on Raw? We don't know. What's going to be planned for them? What they're doing going forward? Not too sure about that one, but I suppose to freshen up the rosters, they need to move people over. So, and the Brawling Brutes, Sheamus, Butch, and Ridge Holland stayed on SmackDown. Again, fair. I don't really, see where they're going or what they're going to be doing anytime soon. Sheamus was going for the Intercontinental title. Does he go for the US now? What happens? I mean, the Intercontinental title was the only one that Sheamus hadn't won. So, what plans do they have for Sheamus? Who knows? The next match was Matt Riddle and Jimmy Uso. It was okay. There was a lot of cheating going on, more so with Sammy and Kevin getting Jay booted from ringside, which was quite funny. But again, I just feel like we're seeing the same stuff every week. It's just becoming a bit too mundane. Now, usually they would be building up to something with Roman for the title, but they're not. And it's just, I just think at the moment, this is floundering somewhat. They've added Riddle. Obviously, they've added Solo, but I just feel like something's missing now. You know, obviously, when Roman comes back in a week and they're on SmackDown only, that will be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, in terms of the feuding and stuff, I'm not sure. I mean, Jay and Sammy are now on Raw. So does that mean that we won't, that feud's finished? And as I said, we're going to be crowning new SmackDown tag champions? Because there has been rumors that we're going to be having the split brand pay-per-views again, or premium live events, shall I say. So it will be interesting to see that. But yeah, this particular feud, I'm slightly not as interested as I was previously. Maybe this will be finished at Backlash. Well, it should be finished at Backlash because, again, they're on separate shows. So what will happen after that, we will see. Then we'll see the Shinsuke Nakamura on Miz TV. Quite frankly, was a load of rubbish. Didn't care for it. It had a little bit of comedy, but really just what I mean. And this is going to be the problem with Nakamura going forward. What is he going to be doing? He is a hell of a talent. The Miz is a hell of a talent as well. Let's not forget the Miz. I just don't understand it. It was probably just another throwaway segment. Raw had a lot of throwaway segments and matches, again, assuming it's let's get to Saturday, let's finish this, and let's start afresh with the new rosters, possibly where they're going. The draft, round 4, Raw selected Trish Stratus. Again, okay. I don't see where they're going with this unless Trish, where will she segue now? The champion's a heel. Trish is a heel. Are they just waiting for Becky to come back to kickstart the feud? What's going to happen? But yeah, Raw selecting Trish was just okay. SmackDown reselected Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Jesus Christ. If you're going to push anybody, this is the guy to do it. But again, he now goes to a brand where they don't have a world champion full time. And the United States champion is currently a heel. So what do they do with him? This is the thing. You've got someone that's got a great entrance, the looks there. He's got Scarlett at ringside. Everything's there for him, but the booking seems to be letting him down. So what does this mean for Karrion Kross? You know, we will find out. I would have preferred him going to Raw, to be honest with you, and having him in that title mix fully and actually every week rather than just, every now and again. So it'd be, we'll find out what happens with Karrion and Scarlett. But, SmackDown's a difficult place when you haven't got a full-time champion, world champion anyway. Raw selected Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. They've got the women's tag team champions on there, so it makes logical sense if that's the route they're going down to put the belts on Shayna and Ronda. You kind of have to have them on the same show as your champions. So that makes sense. Ronda Rousey's still injured. Shayna Baszler is one of these myths. She was in NXT. She was brilliant, a submission magician. She held the title for ages. She had everything, and she was another one that moved to the main roster. It's just felt flat on her ass. And I really hope that putting her together with Ronda hopefully works for them. And I can assume they're going to be winning those tag team titles once Ronda is medically cleared to compete. I'm sure that feud will reignite on Monday Night Raw. SmackDown selected LA Knight. Yeah. Megastar pick. I love. We speak about LA Knight on here enough. Again, the concern with this is he's not on a show where the world championship is going to be spotlighted. It's going to be Austin Theory and the United States Championship. So where does that leave LA Knight? He was on a losing streak. I know he won last week. What are they going to do with LA Knight to catapult him? They've got to make the most of when a wrestler's on top and he's getting those reactions. I always think you need to make the most of that talent at that point. Because if you don't, he's just going to fall away and then he will be forgotten about, unfortunately. He's super talented, great on the mic, great wrestler. Should be a great selection for SmackDown, but I'm just concerned that there's not that title at the moment for him to go for, unless he goes in like a multi-man match for the United States title and could potentially come out and win that. But in terms of the World Championship, he's got no chance at the moment, not because he's not good enough, but because Roman just isn't there enough. And maybe in a week's time, he will start his next feud, because he should be at Night of Champions celebrating his 1000th day as champion. We'll see. I heard a rumor that he's advertised for Money in the Bank in June over here in the good old UK. We'll see. Hopefully, it'd be good for him to have a match at Money in the Bank. I think all world champions should be at Money in the Bank, just because the ladder matches, the cash-ins are a chance. So I think they do need to bring him over. But LA Knight SmackDown, we will see what happens. The next match was, Omos. He took on Anthony Alanis it was just a ridiculous match, to be quite honest with you. They've not even hyped this match with Rollins apart from an interview segment last week. They've had absolutely nothing for this match, and this is what makes it worse. They announced the match with Seth Rollins at a weekend, and they've not even built it, other than Seth and Omos having one interview segment last week, and they've done nothing. So again, it goes, well, why did you put the match on when you've had no build? There's no storyline sense to it. It's just, we're just going to put Omos with Seth. Great booking there. That one, I don't even know what will happen. And obviously, Omos is a free agent after this, so he can go wherever he wants. It was what it was. And unfortunately, we're going to have to see an Omos Seth Rollins match. I'm not quite sure how that's going to pan out. Hopefully, Seth will come out with the win and will go strong into the title tournament. Will they put Omos into this title tournament? He's a free agent. He could be on there. We'll have to wait and see. Round 5 of the draft saw Raw select Strowman and Ricochet. So they're a tag team at the minute. The tag team champions are on Raw, but they're also 2 good single stars. So that beefs up their roster both in a single and a tag team sense. So that's a good one. Makes sense now, because we know Mike Rome has gone from Raw to SmackDown, and Samantha has gone from SmackDown to Raw. So the announcers have changed. So we still get the quality announcements of Gunther and Gunther anyway, not necessarily Roman Reigns anymore. And she's obviously dating or married to or engaged to Ricochet. So it makes perfect sense. SmackDown selected Shotzi. Yeah, that's pretty much it on that one. What are they going to do with her? She was always floundering here and there and everywhere. She was in a tag, she wasn't in a tag, and then she turned on a tag, and then she was back in a tag. Don't quite know. The 2 sleeper picks for me, really now, Raw got Bronson Reed. Now, anyone that watches this podcast know I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for Bronson Reed on Raw. He's on its brand, and I've already covered this, where he's got the titles. Everyone will be on there. The titles will be on there week after week after week. It gives him a great opportunity to go for these titles, and hopefully they'll position him in a place where he's main event, semi-main event. Bronson Reed and Gunther for the Intercontinental title. Wow, I'll have that every day of the week, and then some. Even though they're 2 heels, even throw in a Drew McIntyre if you have to for a free. But that is going to be a match that I would absolutely love to see. So I'm really stoked that Raw selected Bronson Reed. SmackDown selected Pretty Deadly from NXT. The Brits coming to SmackDown, I think, is a great pick. Pretty Deadly were essentially killed on NXT. They were thrown in the river by Tony D'Angelo and his team. So I'm really looking forward to see what the future holds for Pretty Deadly. I think that's going to be a really good pick. Characters are slightly comical, so again, we'll have to see if they keep that or whether we'll see a more serious side to them. But Pretty Deadly on SmackDown, again, there's no tag champions on SmackDown. So you are thinking at this point, are they just going to singleize all the titles on both shows? I hope so. I think it's going to need to do it. But I'm pretty stoked to see Pretty Deadly on SmackDown. I'm hoping that's going to work out for them. The Judgment Day. And the LWO had another match. Again, we seem to be seeing this a bit more than what maybe we should do. It was great. The promo beforehand, Dominic, absolutely nuclear heat. This kid is amazing at what he's doing right now. He's doing his job fantastically. So just to confirm, it was Judgment Day Priest, Dominic, and Finn. Priest, Dominic, and Rhea was Ray against Ray Zelina, and Santos Escobar of the LWO. A great match. In Finn Balor interfered, which kind of get it now. It was one of these ones where I felt like neither team could afford a loss because they've both been kind of jobbing recently on either show. But you kind of needed to give, I would say, championship advantage. Rhea Ripley is a champion going into her match with Zelina on Saturday. I think you need to give the championship advantage, at least on Raw. Maybe something will happen on SmackDown that will give Zelina that that little hope that you see for the faces before they go in. But it was a solid match. The promo before was strong, and the crowd ripped their hell out of Dominic Mysterio. So that's fantastic. The funny point of it was Rhea Ripley would say, "Is there any surprise who drew the first draft pick?" I mean, Mummy's always on top, and if you looked at Dominic's face after, that was quite hilarious. So I like that. And then we moved into the final pick of the draft for Raw. There was some picks we'll get into in a minute after on Raw Talk. Raw selected Alpha Academy. Again, make perfect sense. I think Maxine Dupree and the male models were already included. So that's great. It carries on this story. We really hope that Chad gets an opportunity to really go at it and show us what he could really do, because he can really go. And we say it every week on this, that he's such a talented guy that every guest that we have on, I mean, and this goes to show, every guest that we've had on that we've mentioned the word Chad Gable to has pretty much said what we all know. And he is Kurt Angle 2.0, and he should be pushed. I wouldn't mind seeing him as world champion. Might get a few laughs outside of that, but I think he's great. He should definitely at least be the Intercontinental eventually when Gunther relinquishes it to a face, and then maybe he starts the program with the World Championship, but we'll go on. SmackDown selected Boogs. Yeah, well, he was doing nothing. It's a shame that he wasn't going to be kept on with Shinsuke, because they could have got back together and done the whole entrance again, which was great. But yeah, I can't really give any more information to that, really. It's Rick Boogs to SmackDown, and we'll see. Raw went to NXT for their final pick of the draft on Raw, and they selected Katanya Chance and Kaden Carter from NXT, which is really weird because the NXT Women's Champions, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, were drafted to SmackDown. They then got challenged when they got drafted by Katanya Chance and Kaden Carter to a title match on NXT, which has been recorded. We haven't got around to watching it yet for the titles, yet they've got drafted to Raw. Didn't get it, to be honest with you. Didn't get it. A great pick. And what me and Andy were saying, and you listened to the podcast over the last month or two, we were saying that the women's division needs a revamp. The one thing that WWE have done on this draft is they have revamped that division massively from NXT. And I am really looking forward to seeing now what that women's division can do on both shows, because they are stacked with great women's talent. They've got to showcase it, though. That's the most important thing. But hopefully, if they do, we're going to see a fantastic women's division on both Raw and SmackDown. And NXT are still strong because they've still got Tiffany Stratton, Sal Loka, who's unfortunately injured at the moment. You know, there was another debut on NXT this week, another woman that was really good. So they've still got a strong brand of women down there. But I'm really excited to see what the WWE are going to do with their women's division, as long as they sort it out properly and they don't just throw it away. The final pick of Raw, was from SmackDown, and it was Cameron Grimes. We hadn't seen him for ages. He's getting into some really good shape. He was really ripped for the pictures that we've seen. Interesting. Cameron Grimes was over in NXT, really over. Are they going to do anything to his character to change him? Is he still going to be the same? Again, he's moving to a brand when there really is only one male title to go for. So where does he do? Where does he what does he do? Where do they go with him? What are they looking to do with him? I think it's a great pick. And again, it freshens the roster with a new face rather than just splitting up moving from Raw to SmackDown. The call-ups from NXT are going to be vital, I think, in this. So I'm excited to see what Cameron Grimes does on SmackDown. We move to the main event, which again was Solo Sikoa and Seth Rollins. Now, I kind of said this last week and maybe the week before. Solo is fantastic, a fantastic star of the future for sure. The concern with me right now is that he's starting to be overexposed already by the WWE, and I think that's kind of a problem because you don't want to keep seeing too much of a good thing. And Solo, at the moment, he's main eventing Raw, he's main eventing SmackDown, he's co-main evented Backlash. Is there going to be just too much of him on TV? And then we'll be like, we don't really want to see him anymore. And hopefully not. Seth Rollins won the match by DQ. It was a fairly good main event. But again, we see this so many times with the Usos and coming out and helping. So again, it was just one of those things where we keep seeing it every week. Every week they come out, every week they do it, and it's just how many times are we going to see that on top of how many times are we going to see Solo Sikoa in the main events going forward? That was Monday Night Raw. As I said, thought it was okay. It was what it was, and I think again we look at it and go, well, that was kind of filler, and it was, to be quite honest with you. And we'll see after Backlash. I'm hoping we see more of this going forward, and we'll see more of the roster. We've still got people like Alexa Bliss on there as well. Next Bliss has got to come back. Bray Wyatt has to come back. So it is, interesting to see what happens with the brands going forward. How does the split work? Now, the supplemental draft happened on Raw Talk. We'll finish off with this. Raw selected Dana Brooke, Nikki Cross, Johnny Gargano, Los Lotharios, Axel Tozawa, Piper Niven, Xia Li, Tegan Nox, Emma, Riddick Moss. And they also gained Odyssey Jones from NXT, as well as Indus Sher and Jinder Mahal. Yeah, again, Jinder Mahal, Indus Sher. Odyssey Jones is, again, a sleeper pick. Looks a great talent. They picks, again, the women's division, Xia Li, Tegan Nox, Emma, Nikki, Dana. Again, it's looking, stacked division. So hopefully those picks will increase that women's division and make it better. SmackDown only got 2 picks. One was Tamina, again, women's division, strengthens it up. The other one is an absolute belter of a pick. I'm really surprised they left this off of the main show, which was Grayson Waller from NXT. He has been a standout in NXT over the last 12 to 18 months. He had a great feud with Gargano. He's going to be, I think, an absolute star in the making. Hopefully they sort him out right on the roster on SmackDown. I'll be one of them that I'm very much looking their pick up, but very much looking to see how that pick works. So it'll be interesting to see with Waller. We've got a few more free agents. Baron Corbin, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, Elias, and Zion Quinn joined Brock, Omos, and Mustafa Ali. Well, they did. I've got nothing to say. I don't know what the point of the free agency is. Quite boring, to be honest. Brock, I can kind of understand, but why would you do free agents when you said this is a game-changing draft? I think it was a good draft, but I think it could have been better. Look, that concludes Raw, the Raw review. We have today announced 2 more guests coming on the podcast as well. Zach Zodiac, the brother of Paige, joins us in a couple of weeks, and Nick Hausman, the wrestling personality that pissed off CM Punk at the Scrum, is joining us on the 31st of May. We look forward to that. Guys, we have got another 2 more podcasts today. Me, Andy, and CJ Carter, the boss man from Ignite, will be talking all things bitter end and buckle up. And then later on this evening, straight after that even, I am joined by the lovely Fiona Lockran and Tony Lacasio from NWA. We look forward to it, guys. This has been the Raw Review. I have been Adam Cousins, and we will see you again later. Goodbye.